Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with What Are You Listening to Lately? And what am I listening to lately? I'm always fascinated to find out, what music you're turning to just for pleasure and what's getting you turned on and excited at any given time. I get hooked on certain pieces. I just find them fascinating, and particularly if they're lesser known works. I'm always interested to come back to them after a while and give them some intensive listening to see if my enthusiasm for them is sustained, over the long term, because that's, after all, what makes a true classic, right? The fact that it constantly renews itself when we go back to it, even after a long hiatus. And the piece in question, in this case, is the Magnard Symphony No. 4. In this best ever recording, it really is, featuring the Malmö Symphony Orchestra with Thomas Sanderling. It's a glorious performance. I think the Magnard Fourth is probably the greatest symphony in the Franck tradition, the immediate post-Franck tradition of writing with cyclical form and all of that stuff, with that luscious chromatic harmony and all of that juicy stuff. I mean, nobody does it better than Maniard does in his fourth, or his third for that matter, or the second. They're wonderful works. It's a fantastic series of symphonies, but the fourth is really, really special. I mean, it just has a nobility. There's an exalted quality to it, and the ending is so perfect. It's a soft ending, but it's a true culmination. It's just, it's incredible. It gives me chills. And it still does. It's still getting the job done, which is a good sign. And I think one of the reasons I think this performance affected me so much is because, I had a conversation after hearing it and loving it, and reviewing it and whatnot with Thomas Sanderling. And, he said to me, he said, I really think that the Fourth Symphony is a masterpiece. And I said, yeah, it really is. I think it is too. I agree with you 100%. And he plays it like it's a masterpiece. He really does. In case you don't know about this music, Alberic Magnard lived from 1865, which was, to 1914. He was killed by the Germans during World War I, defending his farmhouse in Alsace or somewhere around the Maginot Line. I mean, it was in there, and they blew him up in his farmhouse. So he was not all that old when he passed away. He was only 40 to 35, 49, somewhere around there, and he was a person of very high ideals and high standards, and it's evident in this symphony. It really is. The piece has a beautifully shaped cyclical form in 4 juicy movements. There's a motto theme. That's it. Actually, I did that rather well, if I do say so. And the first movement and finale end with that motto. The ending is just so perfect. I can't even begin to describe it. You have to listen to it yourself. And it's exciting, and it's full of really distinguished thematic ideas. There's a delicious, garlicky rural trio section in the scherzo, which is, marked just quick, but it's a dance movement. The finale has all kinds of good tunes. It's very richly scored. You've got lots of harps and things happening in the Frankian sense, but it's still, despite the density, there's an airiness to the sound, an openness to the sound, partly because of the widely spaced harmonies. It's really an extraordinary piece, and I just am still hooked on it. I really am. I mean, there are other good performances. There's a good series on Naxos. There's some good ones on Hyperion. They're not bad. They're a little bit lighter. I like this performance because it's a little bit more deliberate. It's a little bit more, Brahmsian, a little darker. Sanderling really takes it seriously, and he treats it like a major work in the great 19th century symphonic tradition, and it comes off splendidly. Actually, this is a 2 CD set. You've got the second and the fourth, and the total timing is 81 minutes and 57 seconds. Later, I mean, this was recorded in, 1998, somewhere around there? Yeah, 98, 99. Later, BIS would start making CDs that were like 82, 83, 84 minutes. They would have stuffed both of these on one disc. But back in the day, they didn't do it. So you get 2 CDs, but I think it's 2 CDs. Yeah, it's 2 CDs for the price of one, so who cares if it's still available. But if you don't know this symphony and you love your French symphonies, and they're, the end of the 19th century, the French were writing symphonies, as well as anybody. I mean, actually more frequently, and I think at a higher level of quality than the Germans were doing. After Brahms, I mean, what was there? It was Bruckner and then Mahler, but nobody else. But the French were starting to really get hopping. You had Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony, then the Franck and Dandy, and Roussel was starting to write, and Magnard, who was as good as unknown until just a few years ago. Michel Plasson did the first recording of the Fourth Symphony, and that's pretty good too. But it isn't as clear and it isn't as dynamic as this performance, not as rhythmically pungent. And God, what a symphony this is. So if you don't know this symphony, I really, really urge you to listen to it and let me know what you think. And in the meantime, let me know what you're listening to lately. And keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.